I really strong believe in lifelong learning. So every time that an opportunity comes to me that I can continue learning and developing skill sets and everything, I will jump on it.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to the Leadership Chronicles. I'm your host, Sarah Alter, and I am joined with my incredible co-host, Sherri Sklar.
Hello, Sarah. Nice to see you. Great to be
I know.
together.
Always nice to see you and be with you. Today, we are joined by a phenomenal guest of honor, Andrea Faccio. Welcome, Andrea.
Hello, everyone.
And you may not see it right behind her. I'm kind of looking behind her on the screen, but she is also joined by her fur baby, Rio. So he may make a couple of appearances. Sherri's already warned us she has a couple of cats that might appear. And as this conversation unfolds, you'll see why it's okay, because Andrea is the president and chief growth officer for Nestlé Purina. And so we are going to talk a lot about that just amazing company, amazing brand of the Nestle Corporation, and about the role that they play in serving animals. So it's okay if animals drop into our recording and our podcast today. But before we get started, let me give you a little bit of a background bio on Andrea, just so you can just see how inspirational she is and why we want her to share her story today with all of you. As I shared, she is the president and chief growth officer at Nestlé Purina PetCare North America. And she, in this role, provides unified leadership across the organization to transform business strategies, money-making plans, right into actions that drive that powerful, profitable growth. She began her career in 1996 as a commercial trainee at Nestlé Brazil, and has since served in many, many key roles across the company and the globe as a dedicated steward of iconic brands and one of the key architects of Nestle's success. Andrea is a native of Brazil, and she has held positions across the Nestle organization for 29 years. Like, what an incredible career, and like nice wide and long, runway. And those roles have been in Brazil, Switzerland, Australia, and then most recently for the past 12 years with the US pet care business. She earned her MBA from Washington University in St. Louis, and then completed recently the Advanced Management, the AMP program at Harvard Business School in 2024. So again, welcome, Andrea, and thank you so much for sharing your time with us. We know you have a crazy busy schedule, and I know that our audience is just going to be energized and enjoy this conversation. So let's kick it off then. Let's start, with your HBS experience. So in all of you, you already had an MBA from Washington University in St. Louis, but yet you still, took on the task to, attend this executive education program at Harvard Business School. Tell us why, continue this education.
Yeah, of course. So first of all, thanks for having me here. Good to see you. Good to see Sarah, that I know for a long time from past lives, and sharing here.
Nice.
Yes. So why doing the AMP program is like, I really strong believe in lifelong learning. So every time that an opportunity comes to me that I can continue learning and developing skill sets and everything, I will jump on it. So, and if you think about it, you just mentioned I've been in the same company for almost 30 years. That, like, of course, I started when I was 10 years old. And so it's like a good way to seek opportunities to learn from areas outside of the company, to have contact with a large cohort of people from different walks of life and different fields and different industry. So that was very appealing for me to join that program, and especially being very lucky to be able to join AMP at Harvard.
Yeah, no, it's so true, right? I have a friend that I worked with when I was at Discover, so I have to give him this credit. But he would say knowledge has a shelf life. right? And so even though we all did MBA studies, like the world has been changing radically, right? And so we always have to, refresh our knowledge. And then I love your perspective of it's like don't narrow yourself too insularly from your own world, at Nestle or at Nestle Purina. You've got to expose yourself to those other perspectives. The other thing too, and this was something that I wasn't aware of until recently, but there's the 2-year full-time program at HBS, but then there's a whole plethora of other incredible executive ed programs. So talk a little bit about, AMP and how that works, what that experience was for you.
Yeah, it's like, and if we think about like at the level that some of us are, and there is not a lot of other things you do. Like you said, I did an MBA not long ago. Like has been 8 years that I did my MBA. So when I'm thinking about what would be something interesting, and I didn't know what kind of programs would be available, and I saw the advanced management program from Harvard. What attracted me in that is this is a very probably one of the most intensive things that I've done, but it's a very intensive
Awesome.
senior executive education program.
Mm.
So majority of people in the cohort has 25 plus years of experience. So you are with peers that are living the same problems and opportunities that you are. So it's like it is a program that is designed, like you said, it's not a 2 years program. For us, it's an 11-week program, and it's intense in the sense like you do 2 stints in campus. So you stay 3 weeks in campus intensively studying from 8 a.m. to midnight sometimes. Classes would be not too that long, but you have that time in that. And then you come back for 5 weeks and you still have classes online and you have a program or a project that you need to do, a leadership project
Mm.
that develop in those 5 weeks. And then you go back for 3 weeks more in campus. So I think what is very appealing is that is a short period, is a long period of time. It depends on how you think, but it is a short period of time for you to learn so many different things. And it was a lot of different topics from the MBA. So that was a very interesting kind of training for senior executives, C-suite. They really prepare you for the highest level of leadership in a company.
Yeah.
Well, and clearly, Nestle treasures you, as a leader by, being willing to invest in you, not only in terms of, funding the program, but then allowing you to take the time off, right? They clearly were, strategic thinking. So who did you meet and what did you learn? Maybe let's start with who did you meet?
Okay, yeah. I met a lot of people. It is a big cohort, different than my MBA. That in my MBA I had like 40 people in class. This we're talking about 100, almost 170 people.
All in one sitting, one
So we
classroom type setting, or how was that?
Yeah, so they divide in 4 groups. So we have A, B, C, D, and
Mm.
then you always in with another group in class. So the classes will be around 60 to 70 people, in one, and we will rotate. What was really good because then you could meet the different people. So there
Yes.
was your main group. You would stay the whole time with them, so you probably get to know them more. So it's like I think the way they design it is so interesting because it's to your point, it's like, how can I meet 170 people? But
Yeah.
they make sure that we are mixing and we are having classes with different one of them. But then you leave together with 8 people, 6 to 8 people. My group was 8 people, and it's you're in a dorm, probably better than the dorms
That
when
we
you
had.
Much, much nicer. Having lived in both, yes, I agree.
And
you're
is that like your built-in study group, the people that you live with, the 8 people?
Yes, they call the living group. So you
Hmm.
have our own dorms. We don't share rooms or bedrooms in that sense, like our bathrooms, but we have our living room. So it's kind of like you're living in an apartment with eight
Yeah.
people. You spend the
Nice.
whole time with them. So they become very close friends and very good family. And you rely on them on advices and all the things. So it is very interesting. So it was like 100 and almost 70 people, 41 different countries. What is very interesting, so very diverse. I was like, that was a surprise for me because I thought, okay, it's Harvard, maybe a majority would be Americans. I would be one of the few foreigners. No, I think the minority were American, so
Yeah.
a lot of different industries from like healthcare, financial services, government, consumer goods like me. So a very rich experience in that sense.
Yeah, I had attended recently a women in boards class in
Executive ed.
December. Yeah, and it was an executive ed program as well, and we lived in the same facilities, and it was as equally diverse and global, and I love that. So, did you have any like surprises or challenges in this experience?
Yeah, I would say the challenge, let's start with the challenge. I think the challenge is mainly going back to study. We all busy
Yeah,
executives, being away. I think you mentioned being away from the business for like 6 weeks. It is not easy. Like first, I'm not used to be sitting in a
yeah,
classroom for
yeah.
like the whole day for 3 weeks in a row. So that is like
Were
more.
you able to unplug? Nestle Purina was able
Yeah.
to just completely say, you focus on this.
Yeah, I was so fortunate. So like my team stepped up and everybody made sure to protect me. I remember my boss would joke and say, if anybody texts Andrea, you were in trouble. So like I needed to step in one or two meetings or like make sure that I was reading some emails in the breaks. But I try because it's like, if you don't, it is a short period of time. You really need to immerse yourself. And how you're taking the best of the experience. And if you're trying to divide your time, I think they design, like of course, Harvard knows what they're doing. They design that in a way that forces you to do that. And it is very intense. You need to read, I think, like we read like 115 cases. So this is like 2,500 pages to
You really
read
that.
on top of like we needed to read books and we need to, do all the things. So you really don't have a lot of time. I think so that is the challenge. How you, in a day to day that is so busy and you're used to like, high accomplished, a lot of type A people in the
Yeah.
room, you know, trying to figure out your life as a student again. So that was, I think, the challenge. On the surprise side, what I would say, it is interesting for those who never went to Harvard. I knew about the business case approach that Harvard has.
Yeah.
In my MBA, we use it, but it was like probably my MBA was like 40% was business case and the rest was more theory. In here, I was a little skeptical saying, how can you learn from 100% business case? I think going in there, I said, how can they have a discussion with 80 people in the room? And I'm sure people have different perspectives. And how can you really assimilate the frameworks that they are giving you? And of course, no surprise for the caliber of the professors you have that and how they navigate that and how they can both is like it's so rich because you can one understand the perspectives from other people and
Yeah.
you can see that not everybody thinks like you,
Yeah.
and you can understand what they came from and why, but they manage also to bring things in and close that and give you the framework that you need. So probably those 2 points I would say is a challenge and a surprise.
And probably the toughest challenge was missing Rio,
Yes.
right? You were away from Rio.
Now
Oh,
my
Right.
fiance is listening as well, so missing my fiance and Rio, of course.
Yeah. Okay, good. Very, yeah. If my husband's listening, he's going to be like, yeah, she would only say the dogs. Yeah.
of course.
So one last question about HBS. So what you learned, how are you going to apply this now, or how have you applied it at Nestle today?
Yeah, I think the good thing on the program as well is that I learned some different things from what I said from my MBA. Is like it was a very transformative experience, and I gained a lot of different. Like we talk about different areas that I didn't talk in my MBA. For example, we talk about incentives and compensation. That is
Yeah.
something that in my MBA I don't get it. We talk about no surprise corporate strategy and global economy that is very important nowadays. Digital transformation and generative AI were all the topics that we really deep dive because when I was in my MBA, it was not a top
Yeah.
topic at that time. So I used that really. it made me look at everything in a new way, and really energized to bring that fresh perspective to some of the priorities that we have. So, for example, at Purina, we're hyper focused on the consumer and how can we deliver the best value and the best products that will enhance the lives of the pet parents, but also the pets itself. And of course, like, you are pet lovers, all of you, like me. And I would say pet care seems simple, but is a more complex task, because if you think about our consumers, like Rio laying down behind me here, he doesn't talk. I don't know if he likes what he's doing or not. If he likes the foods that we're giving them in that sense. So we use that. One example could be how we're forward thinking and how we can use technology to change the pet care experience. We as Purina, we have a long history of doing things to transform the lives of pets. And there's some things like people may not know. I think everybody knows us as a pet food company. So we produce very good quality pet food products, but we are very active as well in a proactive care area. And what would be that is like really using technology to help you to care for your pet. So there is one brand that we have that's called Petivity, that for cat owners like you, Sherri, is that a smart litter box monitor that can detect using AI, can detect the changes in pet behavior. So if the cat goes too often to litter box or not, and that can help you to maybe identify something that may be changing in the health of your pet, and then you can go to the vet and see it. So this is one product that is in the marketplace, but using the learnings that I had at Harvard on generative AI and all those things, I've been pushing my team on what else can we do with that. What
Good
else
job.
can we accelerate on the pet care side, and of course a lot of things that we can do on products that we bring to market as well on the pet food.
Good
All right.
job. That
Well, yeah, I know. We need that for you, Sherri. We need
oh,
that for your cats.
every day I have that question. You know your consumers, Andrea, because every day I'm questioning what is going on. And one of my cats, it's like, why is he behaving this way? I would love that.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, my veterinarian, I told him that you were going to be on our podcast. He said to tell you that he only serves his cats Nestle Purina. So just so you know that.
We
Um,
love that. We love that.
I would love to jump in and talk a little bit about Andrea's journey, because you have such an incredible just lifespan that you have spent with Nestle Purina. And I wanted to ask you about how it all began. And I think it all began in Brazil. Tell us about how your journey began and how did that set you up for your success?
So I joined Nestle Brazil in like 20 years ago, just fresh out of college. So as an undergrad, they had an amazing, and I still believe they still have it, an amazing program that we call the commercial trainee program. So several of us come in and you start from exactly understanding the basics of the business. And for a CPG company, so for a consumer goods company, the basic of the is how your consumers buy your product. No, it being in sales, being in the merchandising area, and it was not an easy. Nowadays I have a whole new appreciation for the people that does this kind of job the whole day, because
Yeah.
it's not an easy job. So being in the market, being inside of the grocery stores and the supermarkets, and the job was like really going to the stock and taking the products, carrying the boxes, opening the boxes, putting the products
Yeah.
in the shelf. And that was critical. I think at the beginning, coming fresh out of college, you don't really understand much about it, but it was very fast to understand why. My career was mainly on the marketing organization, so I would be responsible for developing the products and all the things. But knowing how our teams, our sales team, would be manipulating the products, would be displaying that on shelf. What is the challenge you have? I was in the confectionery business. Is it easy to display that or not? Are you creating more friction for your sales team to be there? And also when you're there, you're having a lot of contact with the consumers,
Yeah.
like buying the products. Can they find the product that they need easily?
Foundational. This is foundational Would you advise anyone starting out that they might want to start out that way, the same way?
Even the same here at Purina, a lot of people would start in our order revenue management business, because that is so foundational is how the customers order products. And you have a visibility of the entire company. So I did that for a year and a half, and you do merchandising and then you do sales. So I had my whole territory. That was scary because I was not even a year out of college, and you're like selling things with customers and telling them like how much they should buy or not. So it is, I think it gives you a fast start and give you skill sets that are so critical for when you go back to the office and management and give these foundational skill sets that you will not have if you go directly to an office. I think that is very critical.
I love that point. The story you're talking about reminds me of when I was at HBS. We were visited by Ross Perot. You guys remember Ross Perot?
Absolutely.
And he spoke to our class and said something about how important it was to start out from the basement floor of any organization.
Yeah.
And by doing so, you will understand more about the company than anybody else, and you'll have greater perspective as you start rising. And I use that very much in my own career. So Andrea, you're a perfect example of that. And so how did it go from Brazil? Now, as Sarah had mentioned, you went from Brazil to Switzerland to Australia, New Zealand, and back to the US. And tell us a little bit about how you then launched from Brazil. How did you get recognized so that you could get that next level? You went to Switzerland, Nestlé headquarters. There's my cat. Sorry.
Of course, he knows who we're talking to. So he
Can you hear her?
I can.
Sorry.
Yeah. Another fur mama.
So yes, I was almost 10 years at Nestle Brazil when I never had, and this is a question everybody asks me, if I ever had the dream of having a international career. And no, I never thought about that. I was like always thinking that I would be in Nestle Brazil my whole time, or I would go to another company, who knows. But I never had that desire. And there was a point in my career that I was seeing that I want more. I want to learn more. I want to be more challenged in different areas. And have several friends that came back from expatriations. And I go, why not to try, So, and my intention was I really wanted to go to the center, to the headquarters of Nestle, because I wanted to understand the strategic or how the operation works and all those areas. So I was very fortunate to get a proposal to go to work in one of the strategic business units they have there. So at that stage, I was in the food business, the human food business, not on the pet food business. And I went to do a work there that was very interesting. It was a very challenging time to decide going. It was probably the most pivotal moment in my career and probably in my personal life as well, deciding to go there. But I remember when I was deciding that, I said, I go there for 3 years and I come back. This was my safety net. If if this is not for me, I never thought I would stay away from Brazil forever like I am. And it was a job that they offered me that I didn't think I was qualified for that. It was not my wheelhouse, was not my strength in that, was not. I took the leap because I think this is one of the learnings I always have. You need to believe on the people that believe on you. And if they offer me, it's because they knew I could do that. And it was a great experience to go there. It was hard because I was going to a country that I didn't speak the language. So a part of Switzerland that I went to is the French part of Switzerland, and I didn't speak French. Yes, for work we speak in English and everything. I didn't know anybody there, and a lot of time I know when people see you being an expat, they always look at the glamorous side of being an expat. But that is the hard part. I was going by myself. I left my friends and family, and I just went somewhere.
That takes courage. It takes courage.
It's lonely at first, right? It totally get that. Yeah.
But you must have crushed it, because then you went on to Australia and New Zealand. How did you get recognized to do the next thing? And how did you go after that? What enabled that to happen?
Yeah, I think the part of a lot of people ask me, and on the how you get recognized on it. For me, it's like the first thing is that you need to do an outstanding job. You need to deliver the results. But like also knowing it's not everybody at that time being in Switzerland, it was a part that I needed to think. Did I want to go back to Brazil, or do I want to continue my international career? And I was like, after you're out there, and I saw I could do it, it was interesting, and I was seeing a world and different cultures. I was like, why not one more, and Australia, New Zealand was a very interesting challenge. So it was in the food business, was for me to be the head of marketing for the food business in there. It was a turnaround situation. So it was like, let's do it. Like, let's try to do that one. It was very hard. It was a very
What was
challenging.
the challenge? What was the biggest thing about that? And how did you overcome, that
Yeah,
challenge?
I think part was, if I think back today, I was like, for me, it was like Switzerland was great and was not as hard on the personal side. And probably now in hindsight, it's because I was one of a lot of expats. So if you think about the Nestle headquarters, most of people are an expat. So we're all in the same situation. And you are, so we share that, so you create your own group of people, you have your support system in there. But when you look at Australia, I was one of a few expats. So that starts from that side. That is already a different environment for me. But like, what was the hardest in that was like, this was also a different scope. When you're talking about Switzerland, you're talking about any strategic unit where you give support, you work a lot on strategy, you work with markets. And there I had my largest team at that point, in my career. So again, different culture. Business was in a turnaround situation. So it's like makes everything together being challenging. But to be honest, I always say, and I say this to everybody that I meet or a mentor on my team, it is the most challenging situations that you grow the most. And so I would like, Australia was an amazing experience. It is one of the most gorgeous countries you can live in the entire world, I think, and I still miss there. But I learned so much about myself, about my leadership, how I grew as a leader. And I thank so much the team there, because it was like the business was hard and we're trying to turn around. One example, I came in, and I think a month later, I need to restructure the marketing organization. We had New Zealand team and Australian team, and I need
Mm,
to consolidate them in Australia. What is like, as a new manager,
yeah.
as a new leader, without knowing much and needs to do is not an easy.
What did you run into with that? Like, you decided that was necessary. Did you run
Yeah,
into any obstacles in making that happen? And how did you make it happen?
so the team was really supportive on that. I think they've been thinking about a lot about that and how we consolidate. And thankfully, we managed to find space for all. Some people from New Zealand join us in the Australian team. What was good, because we needed to have this injection of to make sure that we are having representation of both markets, but also some of the people on the New Zealand team that in that stage will not have a job in that specific one. We managed to find different positions for them in the broader Nestle organization. So at the end was a good outcome, but it's like, it's a risk, you're coming new, you're like, nobody knows you. And I think that is the other part of being an expat, or for me at least, was every time you're being promoted normally, you kind of build on your success. You don't need to prove yourself so much. In my case, every time I was being promoted, I was moving to a completely different place with different people that I didn't know, so it's kind of like you're starting over again. They don't have the background on why I was promoted. They didn't see me doing that. So that was probably challenging in that personally.
Yeah. And, you mentioned some, it's personally probably one of the most challenging moments in your career or life. And a lot of people don't realize that, especially as women, when we go through our trajectory, our career trajectory, there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes that nobody ever sees, but we keep it cool. We keep it like going. Um, And that in itself is a powerful. It's a powerful move. It's emboldening, and it helps you grow, be the best person you can be. Does that resonate with you?
Totally. It's like it is for me. I was like, I got married in Switzerland and we moved together to Australia. And at the end, we're not married anymore. Like we got divorced when we were in Australia. So it's like you can think like there was challenges on the personal side for both of us to get to know each other and to be in a different country. And there's impact. There's no. It's like we are one person. No, you cannot separate from your personal life and in your professional life, and we're trying to get
Yeah.
to know people and make friends. And it is always, I always say, like, the best moves is when one thing change and the rest is all constant. This was never a part of
Yeah.
my
Oh
life.
my
So
gosh. No, right? Like, yeah. Yeah. And then you had a three-peat because not only were you successful at headquarters in Switzerland, then successful and new markets, Australia, New Zealand, and then you moved to the US. Tell us about that.
yeah, I had the pleasure to come to the US 12 years ago. So it's like also as an expat, you have like a kind of a contract, like 3 to 5 years is normally where you stay. And so I was looking what was next, what could I go? And at that stage, I was looking for another developed market to go and coming closer back home. In that sense, because Australia, I love it. If I could be born again, I want to be born in Australia, but it's very far away from my family. So even to communicate with them was a challenge. Like we needed to plan. I could not pick up the phone and call my parents. So I got the proposal to come to Purina and to start to join the Latin American division. So the Latin American division, we are regional business at as the only regional business at Nestlé. So the regional team is here in St. Louis, and so I joined them as the chief marketing officer for the Purina Latin America. It was an amazing opportunity. One, Purina, who doesn't want to work for Purina, working on PetCare was always like a dream in the marketing organization, even more. But also coming back a little bit to my roots, working with Latin America. It's one of the things that I think we sometimes overlook a lot, and I think it was a big learning for me in my career, how much the cultural differences impact you. It's we have our own person, but then we have the cultural environment of your country, of your company, of whatever you call. And coming back working with Latin America was a little bit like, okay, I needed that coming back home a little bit.
And we noticed that you, as a Latina, stepped up and you paved the path for other Latina leaders with a program you created called what? Latinas for Good program, right? Can you
Yes.
tell us about how that worked? And that's really a wonderful opportunity as a leader that you were able to do that.
Yeah, I'm so grateful and proud to be part of this group. So, Patricia Corsi is a Brazilian, very successful CMO as well. And she had this idea and she joined and she asked like 13 other Latinas to join her and create this group. So, we are like a group of Latin origin senior executives that has a passion to give back. So, this is who we are. So I'm very proud to be one of the founding members of this group. And what we do currently, we use our platform and connections and experience to support, inspire, and guide other women of Latin
Mm.
origin. And our primary activity currently is focused on developing our free mentorship program. So we have like 2 or 3 waves of mentorship program. We just start one now. I have two mentees that I haven't met yet, but I will meet both of them in the next few weeks. And it's such a rewarding program. I learned so much from my mentees. It gives me a lot back, and it's kind of like we are helping them in different ways. So what we do as well, because it's only 14 of us, we enlist a lot of other executives. So I use my network and I ask people on high-level executives to come as well and do the mentorship with us, so we can try to cover more people. We have much more people wanting the mentorship than we can support, and gratefully a lot of people take one or two or more in that one. So if anybody, I will put a plug in here, if anybody wants to know more about that, we have a website. You can go to goodlatinosforgood.com and you can have more information.
Such an important program. I really love hearing that.
We'll make sure we put the link when we post
Yeah.
this podcast, because to your point, and that just speaks volumes of you, Andrea, and all of the other women, that have stepped up to, selflessly, support others. And in that spirit of like philanthropic work and missions, Nestlé Purina is more than just a pet food company. And you touched on it a little bit earlier in our conversation. One of the areas that I know you've been focused on serving is the role that pets play in mental health. Share with our audience what that type of work is looking like.
Yeah, this is another part that I'm so proud, and it's so touching to see. Pets are like a big part of our life, and Purina has always been guided by the belief that pets and people are better together. So we've been doing that for more than 90 years, and we know, like you said, Sarah, we know how powerful the bond with a pet can be. We saw briefly your cat in there, pet on so, and there is many unique ways that pets can strengthen the family and bring community closer together. So, with that in mind, what we do, we partner with several nonprofit organizations, and I can give one example. One example is Duo Dogs. And Duo Dogs is a nonprofit organization that provides assistance and facility dogs to individuals and organizations that have physical, mental, or emotional needs. And how we do that, and it was so nice to see, and I walk on campus here and talk to the people that attended that program. So through that partnership, what we did is that we offer our employees and their dogs to have the opportunity to be trained by the Duo Dog and to become touch therapy certified dogs. So they can go to hospitals in the areas, to universities, and to do that program that enable comfort and healing to the youth, to adults, and anything around the San Luis area. So that is such a beautiful program. I unfortunately didn't have time to do with Rio. Rio is not that good to be, like he jumps too much, so we'll probably not be the best one to be in that, but we can see how many people in here. And the other one probably that I would mention, because is very, when I learned more about it, it was a sad situation, but it is the Purplish project that we have. So Purplish project talks about supporting shelters that to domestic abuse survivors. There's always looking the word in that. So there's a sad reality that abused spouses, they will not leave the situation. They may not leave the situation, they want to protect their dog. So it's kind of like nearly half of people, like 48% of domestic abuse survivors, they will report that they will delay leaving their abuser because they can take the pets with them. So when we started this project, that is an innovative partnership that we have between Purina and Red Rover. This is another nonprofit that we work with to create safe spaces for the domestic abuse survivors and their pets. We started this project in 2019. And when we started, unfortunately, less than 10% of domestic violence shelters were pet friendly. And today we're glad to see that almost 20% are pet friendly, and we are working together with Red Rover to increase that number to 25% by the end of 2025. So it is a very rewarding area to work on.
I had the pleasure, Andrea had connected me with others in her team, who then ultimately connected me with your chief veterinary officer. And he spoke a ton about just, not only, how you serve the pets and their families with nutritious, food products and other, products such as litter for, for cats. But he talked a lot about how you're investing in the communities and you're investing in the families, and there's this equal commitment to philanthropy, and I just absolutely love that.
Yeah, congratulations, Andrea. What I just picked up is the ripple effect that you're having is not just on the health and well-being of animals that we love, our pets that are part of our families, but it is for human beings. The impact on mental health and well-being of human beings is directly affected by it's probably maybe one of the only ways to get to that state of being. And just congratulations on figuring that out. That is amazing. Congrats. I love that.
Yeah. All right. Well, we could spend like at least 2 or 3 hours more.
2 or 3 days.
We barely scratched the surface, but we've come to our favorite part of the conversation. Sherri's and mine, maybe not Andrea's, but it's rapid fire question time. All right. So I'll kick us off, and I'm very curious to hear how Andrea's going to answer this first one. Cat or dog person?
Oh, that is not a fair one for somebody that works at
She
Purina.
represents both.
Yeah.
I know. You can say both. Oh my goodness.
Let's say I love both, but I have dogs. I only had dogs in my life, so yeah.
I know.
Okay.
All right, Sherri, your turn.
I'm next. Okay, Andrea, what's one transformative incident that happened in your childhood that impacted how you turned out?
That's a great question. Like, I don't know if it's an event, but so I will go with, like, bear with me. It's not a specific event, but the big impact on who I am today was really seeing my parents care for their business. So my dad had an engineering company, so a civil engineering company. My mom used to work with him, and even my brother at one point worked with him. And seeing their dedication, their working ethics, their sense of responsibility to the employees that they had and the families, but also I think the most important, the grit. I was not. I grew up in a family like a middle class, and there was days that we didn't have things because the business was not doing well, and it's like the ups and downs. Part of this is what made me not want to be an entrepreneur and go to work in a corporation. But I think like my work ethics and how much I work and like I love what I do, and it comes from them, comes from seeing the grit that keep them going when the things were not good.
Powerful. Yeah.
Yeah.
What your parents, provide for us is powerful. Okay, Sarah, you're up next.
All right. Secret talent that nobody knows about.
I have one that everybody knows, that I'm super calm, doesn't matter what is going on. I like that everybody says that can have the worst crisis and I'm like zen. So that doesn't count. But I would say I have a kind of like a photographic memory.
I wish I had that.
Oh, yeah.
I think hates because I go, do you remember that slide that we did on this day? And I can't
Oh my gosh.
But I think who uses the most is my fiance, because he misplaces things on the house a lot of times. So he will come to me and say, do you know where my something is? And
No, that's just me. I'm always misplacing my phone. I think we should capture an app and have it called the Andrea app to help us find things. It's good.
All right. Okay. Last one, Sherri.
Oh, okay. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, then I'll just pick. We have so many great questions to ask you. Something you have in your bag that is a lifesaver.
Yeah.
I would say power cords and chargers.
Yes. Very good.
Yeah. And multiple, right? Like,
Yes.
I've learned multiple because they somehow disappear.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't accuse the criminals who have been stealing them.
So sadly, our time is coming to an end here. We don't want it to go, Andrea. We could talk to you forever. But thank you so much for this wonderful time together. Your story is so inspirational. It's exactly what Sarah and I were hoping that our audience would be able to glean the stories of your journey and to be able to understand, how did you do it? What were some of the obstacles and some of the very inspirational things that you're doing as a leader that connects people and adds value to people's lives and our pets, of course. So thank you for being a great leader and shining the way for all of us. I guess to wrap it up, everybody, for the audience, you can get the recording at the HBSWA, the Harvard Business School Women Association website. It's www.hbswa.org/podcast. And then you can also find it in all your typical places, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon, and Apple. Thank you, Andrea. Bravo on your career and you.
Thank you.
And thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Bye, everyone.